Good morning to everyone. I'd like to thank my colleagues at CIVA US for the invitation to be with you all today. It's a pleasure, actually. Um, what I like to do today is um, show you a very quick review about how this very important and deleterious disease, infectious laryngotracheitis, has been dealt with in Latin America. And this is we have at least about 14 years of experience with the very with the vaccination programs we use today. We've been working with them for several years, and the results really are quite good. First of all, for you to understand the ILT situation in Latin America, basically most of the important poultry industries in Latin America are positive for ILT, and in those countries in the blue color, ILT is endemic, and we have outbreaks every now and then. And a few countries which in the yellow color are considered positive because some mode detection of the virus have been done in the past, but those countries have not had any ILT outbreak for at least 20 years. And the rest of the countries in the gray color, really we don't really have reliable epidemiological information. But this is as you can see, most of the industries are positive and endemic for ILT. And this in this table, what we can see is how the countries control ILT by vaccination. In this table, let me get some pointer here. Yeah, in this table, what we can see are the vaccines registered in these 9 countries. These 9 countries account for 92% broiler production in Latin America and 90% of layer production in Latin America. As you can see, all countries have the Vector FP and HVT-LT vaccines registered and in use in those countries. The live conventional ones, TCO, for instance, is still used in some countries. That less and less as the companies recognize the limitations of this vaccine. And the CO is pretty much not used in Latin America anymore, although it's still registered in 3 countries: Bolivia, Chile, and Mexico. So Mexico is still used a little bit of CEO, but the vaccine is pretty much gone in Latin America at the moment. Today, what I want to share with you is some results and data we've seen in different countries, particularly with this vector fowlpox LT vaccine, Vectormune FP-LT. As you might remember, this vaccine is the vector fowlpox has 2 genes from the ILT virus inserted in its genome, and the efficacy of this vaccine has been pretty much solid and consolidated in Latin America. However, the most important point for using these vaccines is actually the issue that we don't get any post-vaccination reaction common with the live conventional vaccine. And also there is no risk whatsoever of rolling ILT infection in the field. So those are the main advantages of this immunological tool for controlling ILT. Early data produced at Dr. Jim Guy's laboratory in North Carolina State University, comparing vector vaccines with the gold standard CO live vaccines. And as you can see in this graph, this is a comparison of viral excretion in birds vaccinated with those three different kind of vaccines: HVT, vector HVT, vector fowlpox, and CEO. And as you can see, although there are some differences, numeric differences, statistically, those vaccinated birds with the vector vaccine excreted a similar amount of virus when compared to birds vaccinated with the TCO. And interesting is that when we look at the weight gain of the birds vaccinated with the different vaccines right after for 1 week after the challenge, there is no you can't see really any difference in weight gain when compared to when comparing the 4 different vaccination programs. But when we look at birds not vaccinated in challenge, really you can see the effect of ILTV on those birds. So clearly showing that the vaccines are all of the vaccines tried in this experiment were working okay. Okay, let's take a look now at different countries in Latin America and how they are dealing with ILT. First of all, Argentina in the southern part of South America. Vector vaccines are by far the preferred ones, although TCO is still registered in Argentina, and a few layer companies still use TCO every now and then. If you look at the whole poultry industry, 37% of the birds in the poultry industry in Argentina is being vaccinated with recombinant fowlpox LT vaccine. Some of recent information. This comes from a large integrated broiler company in the country. During the first 7 months of 2018, there was a problem with the supply of the Vector FP-LT vaccine, and many flocks went with no vaccination. And as expected for the regions, many outbreaks of ILT were detected at that time during the first 7 months of 2018. The amount of broilers involved in those outbreaks was 41 million broilers. However, when we look at the late 2018, 2019, and 2020, an amount of time of 26 months, this company in the same region had only 4 ILT breaks. Those birds were 100% on vaccination with fowlpox ILT vaccine in novo application. So we're talking about a total amount of 175 million broilers. So actually, they went back to normal as soon as the supply of Vector FP-LT vaccine was normalized. A quick look at Brazil. Remember from the table on the registered vaccines in different countries we saw at the beginning, Brazil has only ILT in the layer industry. Broiler industry is free of ILT at the moment. So, and again, in Brazil, vector vaccines are by far preferred way of controlling ILT. Actually, it's been the vector vaccines have been used for many years alone, and just recently a few companies decided to go back and use TCO. And all layers vaccinated in the country against ILT receive at least one dose of Vector FP-LT vaccine. when we look at the situation, epidemiological situation, this is a paper published in 2015, reporting a series of diagnoses in layer companies presenting very light clinical signs of ILT, very low mortality, but very clearly detectable in the field. So when investigating the ILT virus circulating on those companies, 15 companies investigated, all virus detected were TCO vaccine virus. So in all 15 companies, so showing clearly that the TCO, even though the TCO is an attenuated strain, TCO has the ability to create rolling infections and causing very light ILT breaks in farms, particularly in laying farms. And a little bit at the end, we're gonna be discussing a little bit of vaccination programs used today in Brazil and in some other countries in Latin America, for you to have an idea how ILT can be totally controlled with the vector vaccines only. And most of these vaccination programs were developed and validated in Brazil in long living birds. When you look at Peru up until 2008, Peru was free of ILT. In that year, ILT entered the country, and it was really a disaster because the virus encountered a large population of broilers, layers, and breeders, totally naive and with no protection against ILTV. At that time, the Peruvian government decided that only vector vaccines would be allowed in the country. What they did some investigations in different countries in South America and in other continents as well, and they decided that it wouldn't really be a smart thing to do to allow live conventional vaccines in the country. So up until 2017, ILT was quite well controlled. I mean, and as a whole in the poultry industry, we would see something like 1 to 3% of ILT incidents, small outbreaks, clinical outbreaks. However, in 2018, beginning 2019, there was a problem with supply of Fowlpox LT vaccine, vector Fowlpox LT vaccine in the country for a period of 14 months. And as expected, there was a ILT reemergence, clinical ILT reemergence in the country, and the percentage of breaks went up to 8% in different parts of the country. We would see up to 6% mortality in either broilers and in both broilers and layers, and a very strong egg production losses in layers up to 18%. In 2019, at the end of 2019, the situation was back to the one the country had in 2017, very low ILT incidence levels and absence of clinical signs, and that's because the Fowlpox vector vaccine was available at mid 2019, and immediately the industry began to use the product in their farms. This is a typical results in Peru when this trial was carried out in 2009, right after beginning of ILT in the country. And you can see in these three columns, you have the mortality and feed conversion for the company pre-ILT, during the ILT circulation in the company, as you can see, a 3 to 4, almost 4 times increase of mortality in broilers in that company, and a 26 points down or up the feed conversion ratio. When the company started vaccinating the same area, the same amount of broilers, the same farms, the results went back to the same level they had before ILT was circulating in the farm. 5.4% mortality, and a reasonable and good and acceptable feed conversion for that company. Now, let's take a look at recent data generated in Mexico. This is a large broiler company in Mexico, which has their integrated farms located in a very high ILT challenge area. With many companies mixed up, very close to their integrators. And this is a company producing about 8 million broilers a week. What they decided in this company was, well, let's do a controlled trial and see which vaccination program we're gonna be using in this area. When and the decision was because they started to have a lot of ILT breaks in the area. We're going to see the next slide. So what they did, they did an experiment to evaluate 3 different vaccination programs. One with the Fowlpox, vector Fowlpox ILT vaccine, applied at day 1 sub-Q, and the other 2 vaccination programs were TCO applied eye drop at 12 days of age, and TCO again applied via eye drop at 18 days of age. And then they challenged the vaccinated birds at 35 days of age. And when we look at the protection, they were looking for protection against clinical signs. Period. That's all that really matters to them at that time. So with the Vector FP-LT vaccines, they had 90% protection, clinical protection. With the TCO applied eye drop at 12 days of age, they also had 90% protection against clinical signs. However, when the TCO was applied at 18 days, protection went down to 70%, not acceptable. So the decision was to use the Vectormune FP-LT or the Fowlpox ILT vaccine because of the high protection percentage presented by the vaccinated birds, and also because they didn't really wanna get, well, I mean, they wanted to get rid of field vaccination with TCO, eye drop TCO in the field, and also it was an opportunity to slowly start cleaning the field from the TCO strain circulating in the region. So in this graph, what we have is the amount of the number of clinical breaks in this company, in this region of the country, from January down to August in that year in 2019. When you see between February and March, the amount of breaks of ILT started increasing up to 35 in a month in April. At that time, the company started vaccinating with the Fowlpox ILT vaccine. The number of breaks still continued a little bit high for about a month, and then it went down very, very quickly. So at the end of between June and July, the detection of outbreaks in the field was pretty much zero in that company after starting vaccinated with the fowlpox ILT in April. This is interesting because if you look at this graph, this is our the monitoring, the serology monitoring on those farms during the time of the outbreaks and after vaccination started. As you can see here, vaccination starts in April in this graph, and then for about 2 months, still there was still a lot of virus circulating, ILT virus circulating, and they really detect a high serial conversion. In June, at mid-June, towards the end of June, there was no, all the population of broilers in that area went negative. So they couldn't find any serial conversion at that time. Just after about 2 months of starting vaccination in April. And also when you look at the clinical results, you see right here, and these two lines are the average final flock mortality percentage-wise. In light blue, we have the data for 2019, and the dark blue, we have the data for 2020. You can look here that in this red line is actually the threshold accepted by the company, which is the 7% final mortality in that area. You can see that at the end of 2019, really mortality started to increase in this area, December, January 2020. And then it went above the accepted threshold mortality, and ILT started to be diagnosed in this area. So in this over here, you see when vaccination started, 100% of broilers vaccinated with the vector fowlpox ILT vaccine in April, and mortality and final mortality went down almost immediately. Went down on subsequent flocks. So about 2.5, 3 months later, the final flock mortality in this company was 70% less than it was when vaccination started 2.5, 3 months ago. So really showing clearly the serial conversion and mortality, showing the effect, the protection induced by the vector fowlpox ILT vaccine. Now, a little bit of, as I told you before, a little bit of the vaccination regimen used in Latin America today with the vector fowlpox ILT vaccines. All these countries listed here used more or less pretty much the same vaccination programs, depending on the level of challenge, of course. When you're talking about long-living birds, breeders, heavy breeders, heavy light breeders, or commercial layers, we have three different situations. The first one is we're talking about a region where there is no challenge of ILTs perceived, or if there is a very or sometimes there is a very light challenge, not really a clinical outbreaks, but you see now and then a few individuals in the population presenting something related to ILT. So in those regions, the vaccination program is 1 dose of vector FP-LT applied either day old or in the field at between 6 and 9 weeks of age. When you do have medium challenges, eventually you have very classic clinical breaks of ILT. in the company, and then the vaccination program for those companies. But it's not really it's not really out of control. I mean, you do have clinical breaks, but they are small numbers, but they are classical clinical ILT breaks. In those regions where you have the vaccination program is up to 2 doses of vector FP-LT vaccine. There's 2 ways of applying those doses. The first one at the IOD sub-Q, and the second one in the field. Or you can apply, some companies like to apply them both in the field. 6, 8, and then 9, 10, 11 weeks of age via wing web. Today, more and more companies are coming down to apply the first one at the IOD in the hatchery, just because of it's a lot more reliable application, definitely, a lot less prone to bad vaccination application, bad vaccine application in the hatchery. And so whenever companies are using 2 doses, the first one is usually applied at the IOD. And the third situation is we really have a big fire. It's a very hot region, a very hot company, and you get a lot of ILT breaks with very high mortality in the rearing phase, and a lot of eggs being lost during the production phase. So 2 vaccination programs are used here normally. Remember, these vaccination programs are temporary, obviously. So this is just up to putting out the fire and then going back to a vaccination program as a medium challenge region use. So in this situation, very hot situation, companies are applying up to 3 doses of vector FP-LT vaccine. Again, first one at the IOD and 2 other applications in the field. And even some companies are using the vector HVT-LT at day 1 and 2 or 3 FP-LT in the field. And also some companies are applying HVT-LT plus FP-LT at day 1 sub-Q in the hatchery, and then 1 or 2 FP-LT in the field. So these are quite severe and quite strong vaccination programs. And as I told you before, this is totally temporary. Up to the company manages to bring back the production units to a medium challenge situation. And when we look at broilers, broilers are all vaccinated at day 1 or in novo. All companies have an in novo vaccination. We will apply the FP-LT ILT vaccine in novo, and those that do not have in novo vaccination will apply FP-LT sub-Q at day 1. This is the only vaccination program for broilers. So I think this is the next 2 slides are quite interesting, because today we have a new tool to really monitor immunity against ILT, and also to measure the vaccination take for FP-LT ILT vaccine. And this is a ELISA kit, an indirect ELISA kit that detects antibodies specific against the glycoprotein B of the ILT virus. So it's a commercial product developed by a French laboratory, IDVET, and it's pretty much available in all countries in Latin America, I believe in US as well. And you can see in this graph, it's a trial done in Argentina. FP-LT vaccine was applied wing web at 4 weeks right here. Now, and you can see when you do serology at 3 weeks, the population in the farm was in the farms were almost negative, and at 4 weeks they were all negative. So when you apply the FP-LT, and then 4 weeks later you do serology with this ELISA kit to detect the specific antibodies against the glycoprotein B, and you can see a huge seroconversion on those vaccinated birds, indicating that the fowlpox, the vector fowlpox, really replicated and presented the antigens, the ILT antigens to the immune system, and then you get a very nice seroconversion. Another situation was a recent trial in Brazil where layers were vaccinated at day 1, and those layers were negative for ILT at day 1. They were progeny of light breeders not vaccinated against ILT. So they were vaccinated at day 1 with the fowlpox, vector fowlpox ILT, and at 3 weeks, and only 3 weeks later, again, serology indicated a huge seroconversion against the glycoprotein B of the ILT virus. This is quite interesting because you really can monitor your FP-LT vaccination today, and also it tells us that vaccinating with FP-LT at day 1 in progeny of breeders vaccinated, obviously vaccinated against fowlpox. So definitely this progeny would have a maternal antibodies against fowlpox, and those maternal antibodies really did not interfere with the vector FP-LT being applied at day 1. And again, we just wanted to confirm that revaccination in the field, applying 1 or 2 revaccination in the field, was really something that we could monitor and show the industry, yep, the vaccine is working. You do have a booster effect when you revaccinate in the field. And as you can see here, these were layers vaccinated at day 1 with fowlpox LT, and then revaccinated at 4 weeks with fowlpox LT. When you look at the difference, the titers between 4 and 8 weeks, you clearly see a statistically significant seroconversion in 4 weeks later, so indicating a clear booster effect. And the same in the same flock, when you go back and revaccinate them again at 11 weeks, you see a huge booster effect on those layers revaccinated. So that indicating that yes, what the field was telling us for many years is that revaccination in the field with the fowlpox would work, would induce a better protection. This is in our view the confirmation of what we've been observing in the field. And it's just another example. Again, we saw a quite nice booster effect in another farm with in layers revaccinated at 13 weeks, receiving a 3rd dose of FP-LT at 13 weeks. So you can see there's a huge booster effect on those birds. So again, confirming that revaccinating with fowlpox in the field really works. So finally, just a quick words on the situation in Latin America. Vector vaccines and largely vector fowlpox LT vaccines are and actually have been the cornerstone of ILT control in Latin America. and less conventional vaccines are being used. CO, as I told you, is pretty much banned in the region. Nobody wants to use the CO at all. I mean, because it makes no sense. And in TCO, although a little lower than the ban on CEO, but it's still going in the same direction. So less and less use of TCO, mostly because of its limitation and protection limitations. By protection limitations, what I'm saying is that when you have two birds, one very well vaccinated with TCO, eye drop, and another one well vaccinated with the smallpox ILT vaccine, both will present pretty similar protection after challenge. However, when you take into account that to have a maximum protection with TCO, you have to pretty much apply the vaccine perfectly, which is impossible the way it is applied eye drop in the field. So it'll be really difficult to have a perfect vaccination. And lastly, the companies are more and more aware of the risk of post-vaccination reaction. It has happened in many countries, particularly in South America, as I told you before, and that's the reason why companies are trying to get away from the live conventional vaccines against ILT. And finally, I'd like to say a big thanks to my fellow veterinary services professionals in all Latin America, who have been really the professionals responsible for all the data we just reviewed with you. Thank you so much for your patience and attention.